Today, we've got a pair of BMW M5s, past, present, at least present for now, because a new one is already on the way. So, how do we get here? About 20 years ago, BMW was really prominent in Formula One. So they had an idea. Why don't we take some of our Formula One technology and ingrain it into one of our M cars? And so was born this M5 with the S85 V10, inspired by their Formula One technology at the time. 500 horsepower over here. Today, things are a little different. You can't have V10s, naturally aspirated ones at least, that get you all of 12 miles per gallon, at least mine kind of does. These days, things are basically going hybridized, turbocharged, a mixture of both, and we have this. So between these two cars was obviously another generation of M5, and that's when they went back to the V8. It was a 4.4 liter S63, which is largely the same engine as found in this car, and that was a twin turbo. It had a dual clutch transmission. This had a not so great SMG3, which was a single clutch, sequential automatic. Now, we still have a 4.4 liter V8, the S63. The dual clutch is gone though. Much to the dismay of many people, M purists especially, they thought, well, it no longer has a dual clutch, it no longer has a bespoke M engine. What's left? Is this still a real M car? We're gonna find out. We're gonna take this on the road, we're gonna throw it around a little bit, we're gonna do some pulls. I want you to know one thing though. You see, M cars have always been a bit of a tunable platform. This really dates back to the first M3. People really like modifying M cars, and I don't blame them. I've had a handful of them, and my M3 is fairly modified as well. This one's got some mods. It's lowered, it's got some exhaust mods, it's got an intake, it's not been ECU tuned yet, but it'll get there. So at the moment, what we're gonna be driving is a slightly tuned, modified car. And I will put an asterisk down with all the scores to denote the fact. Powering this M5 is a 4.4 liter V8 making 600 horsepower. So it's not the competition model, which makes 617 horsepower. ZF 8-speed transmission. It is a standard transmission that you would find in a whole bunch of other cars, and that includes Audis, includes some Dodges. The rest of the BMW lineup effectively uses this transmission with some minor gearing changes here and there. Well, first of all, let's take a look at the exterior of the car. It's a pretty sharp contrast to what was going on over here. You have flame surfacing and the whole Bangle butt, etc., etc. Chris Bangle kind of made a bit of a splash. He made a name for himself when he designed this car and the 7 Series of its time. The BMWs in the early 2000s got really bloated, and they still are kind of big. This is kind of where the automotive industry has gone as far as design is concerned. But you know what? I think that as time has gone on, this car's aged beautifully. I think it's a really good looking car. And so the ethos of that has carried over somewhat. They've gone back to the slightly more subtle cues of the E39 M5, which was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And they've carried over that design, that aesthetic, the simplicity and the really nice clean cut lines to this F90 M5. Overall, I think it's a really handsome looking car. Let's take a look out back. Look at these lines. Look at the wheels. There is really nothing to look at this car and say, I don't like this or I don't like that. Everything is so clean. Even the taillights, they've gone back to this rectangular, square-ish shape with slightly sharper lines as opposed to what was going on here, which I still really enjoy, but it was a little bit weird. I've kind of grown to love this. It looks like angel wings or whiskers, as my wife likes to call it. So the design is much cleaner on the F90 M5. You've got a little protruding trunk lip. You still have the quad exhaust, and I think that's a big deal for an M car. And lastly, the carbon fiber roof, which I think is a very, very prominent M detail. I love the fact that they introduced it back with the E60 Gen M6, and it's gone on ever since. E92's had it, this still has it, It's just something that really gives the M cars a very unique look. So overall, exterior, always very clean, very sharp. Now let's take a look inside. All right, inside, we've got a really nice, clean interior. We have some carbon fiber trim over here. You've got a very simple layout here. iDrive continues to exist. This is a slightly older M5, kind of the one that I prefer, to be honest with you. So this is also a touchscreen. You have iDrive here. You've got very simple standard media, menu, map, navigation. Comms would be your communication. You've got your shifter here. You've got your adjustments. You've got your performance modes. You've got your suspension settings. You've got your steering firmness. You can turn off the traction over here. You've got your exhaust, loud or quiet. Your camera options, your parking sensors. Very, very simple things. There's not a whole lot to be worried about in this car. Very traditional layout. Now again, this is a car that before they went to that giant touch panel that's split into two essentially. You've got your gauges over here. You got your M1, M2 button. You can configure those to how aggressive you want the car to be when you hit them. So the steering wheel has got some of your radar settings over here. There's your cruise control, of course, as always. You can adjust some of your entertainment options as well. And then over here you have, this is your intelligent safety button. Basically you can customize how much assist you want, or driving assist you want, lane keep assist and distance control, etc. The orange means that it's individualized at the moment. Green means everything is on. So really a simple car, and I enjoy when BMW doesn't overcomplicate things, which they have in the past. You can get into this car really from any other car and simply understand what's going on in here. As a whole, I prefer this interior more so than some of the newer interiors with the giant screen that just runs across the entire dashboard. And I have to mention that quality control, build quality is fairly good. The seats and the leather have always been pretty solid on BMWs. There was a bit of time, you know, in the F-Series cars, like the F10 M5 or the F10 5 Series in general, where things got a little plasticky, and that goes for the 3 Series as well after the E92. This kind of remedies a lot of that. You have certain plastics like this over here, but they're not crazy. This kind of, it's not out of place is what I'm trying to say. You got plenty of storage over there. You've got a large trunk and of course soft close doors. Let's look at that. Now it's time to go for a drive. All right, we're going for a drive in the BMW M5. Woo. Straight line performance. Oh boy. You know, these cars, they get faster and faster. When the E60 M5 came out, people thought, oh my God, this is the end of the world. It's 500 horsepower, it's a V10, it's a 5-liter, all this stuff. And now we've gone down in displacement, we've added some turbos, and we are at 600 horsepower, and that's a claimed horsepower. Let's be real. M5, M8, they don't make 600 horsepower. On their worst day, they'll make 600 horsepower. You know, on a hot, heat-soaked engine, they'll make 600 horsepower. But on their best day, they're probably making closer to 700, in my opinion, at least. I mean, dynos showed as much. So BMW's, you know, ever since the E90, E92, 335, BMW has really underrated the true power of their turbocharged vehicles. And this car is no exception. This, again, being a standard non-competition model, it's plenty quick. There's just so much grunt. So this generation of M5 with the 600, again, 600 horsepower, the numbers they're putting out in the quarter mile are incredible. They are way faster than the outgoing car. They're doing close to 130 miles per hour, some even more than that, especially the competition models, in a quarter mile. 130 in a quarter mile. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Those trap speeds are supercar level stuff. You've got Audi R8s that couldn't do that. And I'm talking about current generation Audi R8. You have to get into the V10 Plus to hit that kind of trap speed. You know, where we are today, it's just unbelievable. Absolutely love where super sedans have gone. The accessibility of a sedan, but the power of a supercar. That's really basically been the ethos of the M5. It's always been this four-door supercar. That's the entire point and the entire reason why BMW built this car. There we go. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Just absolutely fantastic. So this car is modified. It's been lowered. It's got some exhaust work done. And you can kind of hear that. And you can feel it's a bit quicker than it would be normally. And gotta love the sound. Really do. All right, we've got a bend over here. Oh, nice. Okay. Let's go into M dynamic. This car does handle very well. For its size, its heft. Man, BMW just never fails to amaze. Wow. Terrific, terrific. And this is a non-competition car as well. Now, I've got to say, when you tastefully mod an M5, you take a great product, you add a little of that OEM plus quality or trait to it, and you make it perfect. The M5 as a platform has always been about the driver. But the driver for a driver who wants everything. They want the supercar performance, but they also want to take their kids to school, pick up the groceries, drop off their wives at the hair salon. It's just a bit of everything. And this car just does it all. And you know, I'm cruising right now, 3,000 RPM, it's just where I'm keeping it. I'm in 6th gear. And you wouldn't know it. The car is not breaking my ears. It's not trying to shatter my eardrums with an insane or obnoxious level of noise. It's not until I step on the throttle that the exhaust really starts to percolate. And the turbos really spool up. I just love turbo noises. People were so concerned about the M5 going twin turbo. Oh, but the noise, but you know, again, I say this all the time. Everybody who's buying these cars right now was obsessed with one of two cars. There's either a Supra or an R34 GTR, or the GTR in general. So you were either obsessed with one of two 6-cylinders. They both happen to be inline motors on top of that. If you weren't obsessed with that inline 6 or one of those inline 6s, you were probably obsessed with some other V6 and maybe a 350Z or a 300Z. And the Supra and the GTR were both loved because of how they whooshed and they hissed. And all of a sudden now, we're concerned about more cars becoming turbocharged or twin turbocharged or twin charged. That's when you have a supercharger with a turbocharger. Now, what's gonna be really interesting is that the new M5 is going to be hybridized. So it's gonna, I believe it will still have this motor on top of that electrified. So we could be looking at 800 horsepower in that realm or so. And just to clarify, this S63 and what could potentially be in the new M5, so it should still be a 4.4 liter V8 twin turbo, hybridized or electrified, depending how you want to look at it. It should be the same setup currently found in the XM BMW, which is that giant, funky looking SUV that I know has been very controversial with a lot of people. And of course, the XM makes something along the lines of 730 horsepower. So you just know the M5 with that same powertrain is gonna make probably closer to 800, especially if there's a competition model available. So things are just getting crazy. They're getting out of control. We've got a lot of power being sold to a lot of people, and these are the same kind of people who may have just gotten their driver's license. You never know. Ooh. God, love how this thing pulls. All right, so what do we think? What do I think? So really, I'm not new to this. I've driven an M8 Grand Coupe competition a ton of times. It's usually the car I drive when I'm in New York visiting family. So I'm very, very familiar with this platform, this powertrain, this interior, and really it gets high remarks from me. I think overall, if you're looking for not a compromise, because an M5 is never a car about compromise. If you're just looking for something that can give you supercar performance with 4 doors, this is the car you want. You want an M5. Maybe some people will say E63. I disagree. Some people might say RS6. I strongly disagree because the RS6 or the RS7 are considerably slower. And you can tell me, oh, you can mod them and all that stuff. I don't really care. Out of the box, they are considerably slower cars. They do not handle as well as something like this. The E63 is close, but I don't like the way Benzes look, and I don't like their interiors. I especially don't like their interiors. I think BMW gets everything right on the nose. This is the car I would choose over any of those other German competitors or European competitors. So having said that, if you like M5s, if you like BMWs, if you like M cars, like, share, and subscribe. I've got more on the way, and thank you for watching.